Here was what I thought was the most amazing thing. And I think it's a tribute to this, right? Having this bigger vision. It was the biggest amount of money I've ever looked at, faced in my entire life. And here I am like going, no, we're not doing that. We're something bigger than that. There's something bigger.
All right, so I am here with Greg Sini. I've known his wife for a long time. Huge fan of these people, but I've just gotten to know Greg in the last couple of weeks, and he shared with me his example of how his life and business have changed in the last 3 months when he read 10x is easier than 2x. And I just thought his application of this was so powerful that I just wanted to break it down so that anyone who reads this book can just get different ideas and insights on how they can apply it. And so first off, Greg, thank you for giving us some time. Maybe just for the sake of, so people can know who you are, would you just give kind of a brief, just intro of who you are and what you do and where you're at?
Absolutely. Ben, first of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for impacting my life, changing my life. It's been such a blessing. Well, I'm Greg Sini. I am the owner of a couple senior living companies. One is Kemper House, Central Ohio, specialized Alzheimer and dementia care, and the other is Our Home Senior Living, and we do independent assisted with dementia care. And I've just been on a journey to hopefully grow this business, grow my leadership skills, and Ben's been a big impact on me with his books. So,
what was your 10-year plan? So from age 56 to about 66 or 65?
Yeah, if I ended up with 3 communities here in Central Ohio when I turned 66, and then I was able to kind of package that and then sell that, off as a portfolio, you get a windfall. And that's kind of how the business works, and that would be not so much my retirement plan, but kind of, okay, then what after that? Because I'm not retiring at 66. I'm just going to change what I do. Conceptually, I love the idea that 10 times is easier than 2 times. It makes total sense, right? Because you're right. To grow 20%, there's a million things you could do, right? Whereas if I thought, okay, let's just go with this. Let's say by the time I'm 60, which is 4 years from now, September 15th of 2026, I have, instead of 3 buildings, I have 10 buildings. That changes everything, right? So then I had to say, okay, now I'm struggling to do development. So basically I set my gaze on that, right? I'm going to do that.
Was there anything difficult about committing to doing that? Or was it just like, I'm just going to go for it?
I don't think there was anything difficult because I know how this business works. And after I started thinking about it more, I was like, a 10 building portfolio is way more demand, way more in demand than a 3. And we diverse. And so I there really wasn't a big shift there outside of me going, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And I would say now that I can't believe that this has only been 4 months of my life. I feel like I've been doing this for 10 years already. I guess
I call them stretching time.
Yeah, right. So at first I was like, okay, how do I lead 10 communities? Am I in? And I think
you had one. So you had one.
Yeah, I had one. So I have one.
So this is 4 months ago. You have one.
I had one.
You switch your goal from acquiring 2 new buildings in the next 10 years to essentially to having 10 buildings in the next 4, and you have no clue what you're doing. So yeah, where do you move forward from there?
Okay, so I'm driving to Michigan with my wife, and I just turned down my last kind of land deal because the guy wanted like $2 million for the piece of property plus ownership. And I'm like, we don't need that. And it was a good site and all that, but I was just like, no, we don't need that. And I'm literally talking to Lisa. I'm frustrated. We're heading to a wedding. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just grow through acquisition. I never wanted to do that because I wanted purpose-built dementia cares because space matters. And how buildings are built matters, especially with a disease like dementia. And the building should be supporting care. And I didn't want to take somebody else's ideas and force my ideas in their architecture. But I said to myself, well, actually, Lisa helped me come to that discovery. And she's like, yeah, there's a lot of good buildings out there. There's a lot of great opportunities. There's a lot of good operators. Why don't you do that? And that second, I literally called one of my buddies that I knew had just purchased 2 buildings here in Ohio. And I said, hey, do you know of any buildings in Central Ohio that we could purchase? And he said, yeah, I passed up 2 because I wasn't going to be able to finance them. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? And he told me the 2 markets they're in, and they were the exact markets I wanted to be in. I was like, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well,
How long after your chat with Lisa did you make this call?
It was a split second.
It was on the same drive. It was on the same drive. He tells you that there are 2 properties, exactly what you want.
Yes. Within minutes of us deciding that we're going to grow through acquisition, I had 2 opportunities on the table. So, and 2 opportunities in some of the most affluent areas of Central Ohio. So I'm kind of going, oh my gosh, all right, I'm pretty pumped about this. And it's kind of scaring me too, because I don't know if I'm equipped to be and do, and I don't know. Because there's just a lot of unknowns at that point, right? And I do know this, that my heart is in the right place. I do know this, that I'm amazing at hiring great people and then allowing them to grow and be great themselves within the constraints of my business. And that I knew. And I read the book, Who Not How, and I knew that this is not about me figuring out how to do this. It's figuring out who to do it with. And so that gave me comfort. Fast forward. So what you do when you do acquisition deals is you do a due diligence period. And we basically came to an agreement, a price that we all agreed on, that we would buy these 2 communities. And then we had a 15-day due diligence period, which you're kind of discovering the community, you're investigating, making sure that the HVAC systems and all this kind of stuff is working, right? 5 days before the end of the due diligence, you either walk away at the end of the due diligence or you move the deal forward. 2 more properties landed in our lap. This is the crazy part. What we were going to pay for the 2 properties that we had already agreed upon was $14 million, and it was 106 beds. These landed in our lap, and it was 203 beds for $12.6 million. And we were like, holy crap. The catch was the owner wanted to close in 45 days. Now that's unheard of. It's unheard of, right? And so we're told now we have to make a decision. We can kind of move forward with the deal we have, that I know it's a great deal. It's an amazing deal. It's a game changer deal, right? So I'm pumped about that. But this is life-changing deal. But the caveat is we have to close in 45 days. You're talking due diligence, you're talking coming to a pricing agreement, you're talking transitioning of staff and residents and families. And I didn't even have a name for this new business because I wasn't allowed to call it Kemper House because it wasn't a standalone dementia care. It was independent assistant with dementia care. So I didn't even have a company name or business plan or anything. And we had 45 days to close it. So we said, okay, let's go for this. What could have happened is that we walk away with nothing because we can't close it in 45 days. They walk away and the other deal is dead. So it could have been that we walked away from one and we get nothing. So on the 43rd day, we closed the deal. It was so amazing. I remember I was sitting at this table that I'm at right now, and I have my leadership team, now considered my regional leadership team, which we were just all here working at one building, Kemper House, doing our thing. And all of a sudden I'm pushing them into, okay, we're going to be taking over buildings with lives that we have to care for, and kitchen and food and activities and all the stuff that goes into supporting people in senior living. And I've never done this. I have no idea what to do. So we put our best laid plan together as a group, and we started implementing that 15 days before April 1st was when we were supposed to take over the buildings. And I kid you not, it went we hired 101 people in 15 days, transitioned 100 and some residents, and took on 2 new buildings, 202 beds within a 15-day window. And it was the coolest thing to watch my team be so action-oriented. And it was stressful. It was a lot. And so the coolest part is we got through it. My promise I made to the families was great communication. I promised we wouldn't be perfect, but we'd all be striving towards excellence. And it was just one of the coolest things I've ever done, was kind of the transitioning. And I think what I loved the most was watching my team be uncomfortable, but yet push through that struggle, because I know we were growing. And yeah, so now we're at 300 employees.
You were at how many 4 months ago?
100.
So you went from 100 to 300 employees in the last 4 months.
Yeah.
You got your 2 buildings. What else?
Yeah. So we started cleaning up operations, and I didn't know how good we were at operations until I saw other companies' operations. I'm like, wow, we're really good. And so the cool part is those buildings have not cash flowed in the last 5 years. We've cash flowed from day one, just because we smart business people. We made smart decisions. It's insane. So fast forward 90 days. The guy that brokered the deal for us called us and said that he has a buyer that would be interested in paying us $20 million for these buildings. And
this was no long ago from when we're talking right now.
So April 1st is when we took them over. Okay. So it's been 4 months, but at month 3, the broker reached out to us and said, I have a buyer. And here's what I think is the coolest part, is I think about the Greg Cini of, let's just say, August of 2022. If you would have told me that in April of 2023, you will buy 2 buildings for $12.6 million, and 90 days later, you can sell them for $20 million, would Greg Cini of 2022 have said, oh, yes, that sounds amazing? That would have been the biggest windfall of my life, bar none. And here was what I thought was the most amazing thing. And I think it's a tribute to this, right? Having this bigger vision. I was like adamant. I'm like, we're not doing that. No way are we doing that. And it was like the split second of, oh, we're going to do this now. And all of a sudden we have 2 buildings falling in our lap. It was the same deal there, that it was the biggest amount of money I've ever looked at or been faced in my entire life. And here I am like going, no, we're not doing that. We're something bigger than that. There's something bigger than that down the road. I haven't even added value to these buildings, and they're wanting to give me that. Are you kidding? I can get $30 million for them in 2 years. So, but I think about that and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I feel so comfortable with that. But I think I felt like it would, well, first of all, I made a promise to my leaders, right? That I could have just taken the money and run, but that's not what gets us to the end game here. I really want to make a difference in the lives of my leaders and the families that I made commitment to and the residents. And for me to just kind of take that and run with it, didn't feel right in my soul. And so I was like, took that off the table. And the cool part is my business partner, which they were the ones that were like, a lot of money real quick. And I'm like, we're not doing it. And that's incredible to me that they were like, all right, cool. We're not doing it.
I mean, they respect you for, I've heard it said that your team respects a leader for what you say no to, even more big than what you say yes to.
Oh,
So, I mean, when you said, and that's in Who Not How, by the way, but you saying no to them on that shows your commitment to the vision and to like the standards you're going for.
that's cool. Yeah, in retrospect, like for me, it was just a no-brainer. It was the easiest decision. I'm like, are you nuts? We're not doing that. First of all, we're building a brand here, a new brand, and you can't be and do that. You ruin our brand. So here's the crazy part, even beyond that. So you have me write this impossible goal by the end of this year, okay? So literally I scripted it on Monday.
And this was 2 weeks ago. I met you 2 weeks ago. This was
So I scripted
like
it
end of July, or was it even early August?
It was early August.
So yeah, this was like early August 2023.
Yeah.
And they say, what's your impossible goal for the end of the year now that you've acquired these 2 buildings?
Yeah, so the impossible goal was I want to acquire 3 buildings by the end of this year.
3 more?
3 more buildings. And I want it to be in the number of 250 beds would be a good number. And then I have other things, personal stuff, writing books and different things that I'm going to do. But related to this, and here's the thing that is just, I don't get it. And I don't know if this is a higher power thing or when you just ask the universe, it gives. So I literally forwarded, it's a list. I wrote this list. It's hanging on my wall. I forwarded it, copied it, sent it to my family. I said, all right, here's my commitment by the end of this year. The next day, my business partner calls me. Now, we're looking at a couple buildings, whatever, and I really don't see a path to 3 buildings. So Sean literally texts me. He's like, what would you give for, and he names off 3 buildings that I'm super familiar with. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, call me. He's like, yeah, I just got a call from my broker. We can buy these 3 buildings. What would you offer them? And I'm like, I gave a number amount because this is in the works right now. I want to be a little cagey.
Yeah, I want to be. Don't tell numbers, but how long ago is all this? This is all in the last week.
This was literally Tuesday. So I sent this stuff, this to my wife on Monday. On Tuesday, my business partner texts me and goes, hey, we have an opportunity to buy 3 buildings. What would you pay for them? And I give a price and they're probably going to accept it. And so all of a sudden I'm like, this impossible goal is now I have this, I have a way, right? And I'm not quite grasping what's going on. It just seems like when I keep asking, it's happening so quickly. And the thing that's interesting to me is we went through this whole new way of growing and leading and acquiring, employees and lives, and we did it really well. And now my whole thing is are we good or were we lucky? So I'm kind of looking forward to this next phase of transitioning new communities because I want to test, are we really good or were we just lucky? I think we're really good, but I don't know yet until
an opportunity for you to go through fast growth, but also to stabilize really fast and to see how your floor really is, right?
Yeah. And so that's where we're at. And then he calls me last night, same partner, and there was another building that was just brought to our attention that the financing on it is so amazing, we would be fools to pass it up. So that's 4. We're making an offer today. Yeah.
You might hit your 10 buildings before the end of the year, my friend.
I don't know about that.
But next year you'll hit it. Next year you're going to hit your 10 buildings. You're going to hit it way faster than 2026. You're going to hit it next year probably. I know you got a lot of stabilizing and financing and stuff like that, but...
And something you said to me too was I kind of wanted to keep my reins between greater central Ohio, so an hour drive, no longer than an hour drive. Well, this one community is outside of that range by about an hour, so it's a 2-hour drive. But I know the building so well. And it's just, I cannot believe it's kind of been dropped in my lap because I know the building and the community so well that I'm just like, do it, just do it. And it kind of scares me again because I'm like, oh man, I set these parameters and now this is outside of that, but I know I can do it. We just find the right people to do it. And so, yeah, so that's where we're at. And it's just been such an amazing journey to like kind of make that commitment. I'm so dedicated to growing as a leader right now. Like that's my passion. Is I just want to become a better and better leader of really good people, and I ultimately want to really reward those that are stuck by my side till the very end of this. And so I have this bigger vision for them, and I know if I can make them hyper successful, that I get rewarded in the end as well. And I'm not that concerned about my reward because I know if I help other people be hyper successful beyond their imagination. And it's really cool because I'm sounding really smart because I'm using all this information that I've learned through your books. I'm just, living. I did a whole presentation to our entire staff at one of our communities about the gap in the game. It was about, because when you take over a community, it's really easy to be frustrated by where you're not, right? But it's a process. Be grateful for what we've accomplished. I mean, we've accomplished a ton in 4 months. Are you kidding me? We've accomplished a ton. Are we there yet? No, but that's okay because we're constantly moving in that direction. And so I did like a whole presentation on the gap in the game, and just to help staffs kind of appreciate where we've come and how far we've come.
There's a few key things that I think you said that I really want to drill down on because I think it'll be helpful for people. So first off, you changed the goal from having 3 communities in 10 years to having 10 communities essentially in 4 years. And so you're frustrated, you're having a conversation with your wife, and she starts opening up new avenues to you, which is you don't have to be the one to develop them. You can acquire it. There's a lot of options that you're not currently thinking about. And then you make the phone call, and all of a sudden you've got these great opportunities that immediately hit. I guess my question is, would you say that you were already committed when you were having that phone call with Lisa, like in the car when you were driving? Were you already like fully committed to the idea of getting to 10? You just couldn't see how to get there? Or would you say your commitment was building?
I would say I was fully committed for sure. Yeah, 100%. In fact,
you were fully committed to 10. You just had no clue how to do it. And you were frustrated by that.
I was fully committed. I talked with my business partner. I said, hey, we're going to accelerate this because he's younger. He's a little bit younger than me. And so he's 50. I'm 56. And I'm like, and he was like cool with the 10-year plan. But when I said, hey, we're going to shorten this thing, he was like, great. It sounded great to him. So I'm like, and we can do this. And, Kemper House gave us courage. Getting through COVID gave us courage and realized how really, I mean, we're literally best of care, like the way we operate our community. So we had confidence in how we care for people. And so, yeah, I was fully committed to making this happen. I just didn't know how it was going to happen at that point. I just wanted it. And I felt like there's no way that we could build 10 buildings. I mean, the building process in itself and design is 18 months at the very least. So
you already knew it was going to have to be a different way. You just weren't like fully open to thinking about it yet and to figuring out how to do it. Lisa gave you some insights, and I'm interested in, the whole who not how thing that you had who to call. Was he the first person that came to mind? Would there have been multiple potential people you could have called as well, or was he the only one?
He was the one because I knew that he's a deal junkie, and I love the guy, and he's smart. He really understands the numbers, and that he is an unbelievable negotiator. That's his unique ability.
So he helped you negotiate?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had, like I said, we had the one deal in place ready to go, and I was super happy about it. And then all of a sudden, boom, lands this other deal that is, you can't pass it up. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, which you can tell by a 90-day period making $8 million, potential $8 million. That's pretty
big opportunity.
Changing. Yeah.
So during those 45 days, when you had 45 days to essentially, acquire the building, you only had a 45-day timeline. This is super aggressive. You don't even have a business name yet. Like, there's so many unknowns and you're having to figure this out. How are you able to make that happen essentially in those 45 days, 43 days?
Now, we literally moved mountains. A deal like that is a 6-month deal normally. And we, from the very go, thought it was impossible. And
but so you thought it was impossible, but you were willing to risk the other one for that impossible.
Yeah,
because it was that good, and you knew
you had to try
to do it.
We had
to move mountains for it.
We had to try, and so, but yeah, so I literally, my first call was to my son because he's my creative genius, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to start up a new company, a senior living. What should I call it?" And literally within seconds, he says,
"That's another how." By the way,
yeah.
So what did he say? Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. So Jacob's actually helped since he was 9 years old, do business strategy with us. Like, he's genius at this stuff, and he's 28 now. And so I'm like, Jacob, I need your help. So anyway, so he literally says one name, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. And then all of a sudden it started growing on me. I took it to my partners, and they were like, yeah, it's fine or whatever. And so it was Our Home Senior Living. And he goes, Dad, think of like home, like a house is a house, but to make a home, there's so much more that goes into it. I'm like, oh, I love that. And then I'm like, okay, I need a logo. So he went and created my logo. And then I have a guy that does like a lot of our copy. He's just a guy that was a speech coach for me in the beginning because I was terrified of public speaking. And he was actually my daughter's poetry coach back in high school. And I was like, would Ethan help me be a better speaker? And so I hired Ethan to help me kind of become a good public speaker because I knew I was going to be doing a lot of public speaking. And that was 5 years ago. And so he's been involved in my life, helping me to grow our Kemper brand, doing all the copy, helping me write speeches, practice speeches. And so I called Ethan. I'm like, Ethan, I'm starting a new company. I need copy for this new company at Independent Living Assisted. And so he started writing copy. We hired a person for we didn't even have a website. We're creating everything in 45 days. Partnership agreements. It's just insane.
Did you have all this fund in place to be able to fund this?
No.
How'd you get the funding to handle this? Because a lot of people, when they're thinking about these kind of things and they're hearing your story, they're like, well, I don't have the funding, so I just can't do this. He's rich or whatever. Like, how did you get all the funding to do this? How'd you make this happen? I want to hear how you move these mountains and like how you actually made this happen. Because you're popping off. You're getting a copywriter. You're getting this, boom, boom. But you're doing all these things, and it's like, I obviously know you had to move mountains, but how did you make it happen? Because a lot of this stuff you probably wouldn't have known how to do. You wouldn't even thought to do it.
Yeah, so my son works for free, for one thing, and he designed our logo for $88. And then we had our website built for $1,500, 2 websites for $1,500 because people like us. So, moonlighters. And so we find ways to just cobble stuff together. So the startup hardly cost us anything, to be quite honest with you, because I just pulled on talent that loves Greg Cini, family, friends, whatever. And so that doesn't cost a lot of money. Now, I will tell you, so my business partner, who you partner with, it's like a marriage. You need to make sure that those are your best decisions on who you're partnering with, regardless if it's a third-party company or a partner within your business. You better be discerning on that. And so my business partner, and really kind of the money engine behind everything I've done. So I'm a sweat equity guy. That's my ownership, is sweat equity. I run the business. He's kind of the financial guru. He loves forensic accounting. He's nerdy about it. But he's second generation developer. That his family has money. So I found the who, and plus he's cut from the same cloth. He's been developing multifamily for years and years and years, but he wanted something with more mission. he had no attachment to apartments, and he needed something more. His Catholic side of him just needed something more. And he and I got together and decided this was going to be an amazing relationship if we never just focus it on return on money and a real estate play, that it's about people and caring for people. And so we've just been partnered together, and he's kind of the money behind it. When we need capital, he brings it in. He has a lot of influence with banks, but he said, we're absolutely not going to be able to do this. He's second generation. His dad has been developing for 50 years. And they were like, there's no way we're going to be able to close this in 45 days. No way. And we did. I guess there were a ton of obstacles, but I had a ton of resources that I just started pulling on. And it was so crazy because I think I mentioned this to you, that I have more, like if you look at my responsibilities now and you kind of script it out on paper, it's a long list. And I would say it was probably a daunting list, but I feel right now that I have more time to sit and think and kind of learn who I need to be than I've ever had in my entire life. And I think I mentioned that I feel like it's when you're living in your purpose that God kind of stretches time for you. And so I just feel like I have this abundance amount of time to do the right things. And one of the things that I'm doing is, if it's not simplifying my life, I don't do it anymore. So if it doesn't simplify my life, and sometimes it's doing a mundane thing to kind of make a statement to help the mission move forward, right? But I'm very thoughtful as to exactly where I spend my energy. I think it's the mentality. That's really all it is. Everything else kind of gets out of your way. Once you make a mental commitment to doing something that seems impossible, then the mountains start moving. And I'm still kind of trying to figure it out, because like some of the things that are happening, I don't get, but I'm grateful for it.
You might end up with 7 properties before the end of this year.
It's possible.
That's insane. And so one question I have for you, and we'll wrap up pretty soon. I've got pretty much 2 last questions, and then if there's anything else you just want to say, Greg, and I just want to say thank you. So the core model in this book, which is the 80-20 model, that if you want to go 10x, then you have to like the goal is so high that most things won't get you there. And so you got to find that 20% to go all in on. And then you got to let go of the 80% of whatever it was you were doing before, or your former mindsets and strategies, or whatever it was. So I guess my main question is, with the 10x goal, which is 10 properties in the next 4 years, and you've already acquired 3 and maybe even 4 more before the end of this year, what is becoming clearer and clearer to you is your 20% that you're going to have to get really, really good at to make that happen. But also, what's the 80% you've already had to let go of to get you here?
The 80% was, I was very heavily involved in the day-to-day business, especially here at my one community. My office here in the building. I would I'd mow the lawn. I do whatever it took. I'd take out the garbage. I still would do those at points just to show that I'm not above anything. But there's a lot of little things. So marketing, I would say if I'm really strong at anything, it's marketing, outreach, community connection. And I love that. I've given that to somebody fully.
Why? Why did you decide that was something that was not in your 20% to go 10x? Even though you love it, you're good at it, why'd you decide that didn't fit?
I felt that it was a distraction for me to groom great leaders. That I can't, if I'm out in community and I'm doing that, I can't be leading my leaders and developing them into better leaders, because I know that that's the end game for me. If I want freedom of my time, it's kind of, when you think about an annuity or, a business that gives you like a passive income, this can be a passive income business if you build the leadership team, right? And that's kind of where I'm at, is if I keep building great leaders. That's my focus. That's my net
That's your
20.
20%.
That's my 20%.
This is essentially finding deals and developing leaders.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
That's
And actually, not even finding deals.
Because you got the who that does
That's not even that's Sean's deal. Like, I've got the who for that. He's amazing at it. Why would I don't even.
So is your whole 20% now because you're growing so fast, developing leaders, because you can't grow that fast doing it all yourself. If at 2x, you can be the core leader, and you can hold all the weight, you can be the 80%. But if you're going 10x, everyone needs to be a leader. And so you got to develop these people, right?
Yeah. And so that's where I'm spending my time are with my leadership group and raising their bar. And so that's why I'm so fanatical and hungry about developing and growing as a leader myself so that I can help them and lift them up. And it's really cool to actually watch somebody have a really strong leadership moment in the midst of struggle. And that's probably what brings me the most joy, is to watch somebody that I have more faith in them than they have faith in themselves kind of manage through it and do great work. And that's what fuels me right now, is to kind of watch my baby birds get kicked out of the nest and, kind of land on the ground with a thud and kind of waddle around trying to fly, gain some air, run into branches and bushes, and eventually start seeing them fly on their own and really be amazing leaders. And so that's my whole vision now, is I'm focused on great leadership. And then my goal is to really lift up young leaders and let them be something beyond what they ever imagined they could be as a leader.
One thing you said that I think is insanely cool that I'm realizing more and more is that like really good transformational leadership is you continually seeking and achieving the impossible, but also you helping those that you lead. Like you said, you have more faith in them than they have in themselves. And I think one thing that's there is essentially your job eventually is to help them realize that the impossible is possible and that they start to believe it as well and start going for it and doing things that they never thought they could. That's when they start flying out of the nest, right? And so like things that they thought were impossible, now you've instilled in them, no, this is possible. Now they start to believe it. And that's transformational leadership. And then they make it happen.
It was so fun. We sat in this room just 2 days ago to kind of do a conversation about, okay, what are we doing well? What do we need to improve on? And then I painted the bigger vision, and I'm like, look, I'm telling you right now, you have to figure out what you have to let go in order for you to be able to manage 10 communities. And I got a text back this morning from one of my leaders just thanking me for challenging them. And she kind of listed out some things that she knows she has to kind of let go, that we're passionate about, that we love. And sometimes you have to do that. And just to like kind of see that manifest itself, and it just feels so good.
Anything else you want to say, Greg, just about anything you've learned in this process?
Well, I'm just grateful for people like Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan that put information out like this. It's kind of, puts you through that wormhole, right? I mean, you're so good at, I don't know how much time you spend reading, but the information you're putting out is helping me to accelerate so much quicker into who I need to be. And so I kind of covet you like releasing your next video or whatever, because I'm just like looking for that information and I'm digesting it at a high rate. And so I'm thankful because it helps me. I've transformed, like I said, this has been a 4 or 5 month journey that it feels like it's been years, and I've grown so much, and I have no fear right now. I just know it's going to happen. And I think it's because of, books that you release and videos that you release. And it's just really powerful for me and my life. And the thing would ultimately, it's going to impact, I have this vision of impacting my kids, generations forward. And this is going to allow me to do that. And I know it. And it just feels really good. And I'm having so much stinking fun on doing it. That's the best part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You described going from thinking to feeling to knowing, and you've got that high level of knowing now. That level, like you don't have fear. You're building insane confidence, capability. You've got huge who's leadership down below you. Do you think that this shift in goal and then your process of learning this, I mean, I don't like throwing out numbers and stuff like that. And like, some people, it just is unrelatable, but, give a ballpark about like, if you achieve this goal and end up selling it versus your old goal of having 3, what's that difference in like a windfall or a net worth? Again, I get that some people, and I don't want, and you can just ballpark it.
It's probably 30 to 40 million.
The difference between 3 and 10
Yeah.
in terms of a
It could
windfall?
be. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I mean, all in, it could be a $60 million venture net gain if you do it right. It's all about, how you buy the deal is how everything else is kind of immaterial. But if we play our cards right, it's a big chunk of money. And I thought initially, if I could walk away with $3 million, I'd be the happiest dude on earth. Right. That was kind of great. Awesome.
How long ago was that?
Just, I don't know, less than a year ago. I could have done that.
That was the that was
could
the
have done
10-year
that a
plan,
month
right?
ago.
That was the 10-year plan, was to walk away with 3.
That was the 10-year plan.
Now you're talking 50 or 60 million potentially.
Yeah, but that would be divided up between a couple of us.
I got you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens for the rest of this year. And I love that you printed out the impossible goals. And I just love that you shared that and like already interesting steps popping up for you, man.
Well, thanks for challenging me because it obviously opened up some portals.
I share these concepts with lots of people, and the fact that you take it and you actually run with it, and then like look what starts sprouting. That says more about you than it says about the concept.
It is a joy. It is fun.